Welcome to another episode of Life is About More Than Living, a podcast. We're going to take a deep dive into the topic. Life is to be understood, not feared. It will be a conversation. We have a conversation with Justin Thomas, aka Just J. He will give you a lot of his background information when I bring him on. I've chosen today's quote. Today's quote is: "Nothing in life is to be feared; it's only to be understood." In line with the episode's theme. If you are a supporter of this podcast, then I appreciate you supporting it by shopping at my store, Self Talk Gear. The link is at the end of the text, and as well as my book, Split Souls in Transition. Now, so let's bring on aka Just J, and we're gonna dive into a variety of topics, y'all. We're gonna go just pay attention and listen as we go there. Uh, and from dealing with spirituality to living life intentionally, spiritual practices, uh, branding philosophy. It's just seeing life perhaps from a different lens, through a different lens than you may be seeing it. We are now live together. I gave a brief bio. You can fill in what you want to fill in, talk what you want to talk. People don't know you, but we already know that. Now on my show, you don't. But you are well known, and therefore that gets to the core of what I do, which is to bring people on who have stories that can impact other people's lives, so that no one walks away without learning something. As one of my high school teachers once said, I never forget Jasper Willett said, of all my teachers, 40 some years later, over 40 some years later, I still remember what he said, that it's impossible to sit in a classroom for 9 months and not learn something.
It's very hard. As a former educator, I can tell you it's very hard for a person to be in the classroom for 9 months and not learn anything. It takes dedication. It takes them no, I agree, it is impossible because they got to learn the schedule, when to sleep, when to be awake, when recess is coming. Yeah, you're going to have to adapt to that situation over the 9-month period. And you're right, that adaptation itself is explicit, not even implicit, but it's explicit of learning. It shows that learning is taking place. So, a little bit about me. I was born in Jackson, Mississippi. I was born in a 2-parent household, but my mom joined the church, Apostolic Church, and my dad was not with that. She joined without him. When she came back with her, to the home with her apostolic beliefs, Dad was like, "This is not who I married. This is not who I want to be with." So Dad went out and did his own thing. That really caused a rift in my family. And I think it really shaped how I looked at religion, because I looked at religion as this thing that, and I know, in the Bible, like Jesus said, I came to, to bring the sword and to set mother against daughter and all that. I've read that part too. But I was like, I don't understand how religion is tearing my family apart. So I wouldn't follow the religion that I was raised in. I wasn't necessarily a preacher's kid, a PK, but my mom was a church bookkeeper. So I was at church 6 to 7 days out of the week. Yeah.
Wow.
PK. Yes. And all the deacons knew my name and my brother's names, and they were not fond of us, particularly because we always questioned why. Like I've always been the kind of person that I will adhere to whatever systems are in place as long as those systems are effective and they are efficient. Then yeah, I'm with it. But if it's not effective and efficient, then I start questioning it from jump. I start going, look, why is this way? Why is this way? Because for me, just it being the way we've always done a thing is no justification to continue doing it. Like that's not evolution. That's not adaptation. And as a former science and math teacher, I will tell you 2 things I learned. The highest form of intelligence is the ability to recognize patterns and adapt. That's one. And the other thing I learned was that everything is connected. And so we're always supposed to be learning from what's going on in life around us and then building out our understanding of existence from what we're experiencing in our life. Now that's part 1. Then I learned a part 2 later. We'll get to it, I'm sure, in conversation, because it's how I managed to navigate this path of understanding life, even though I was told, like, this is my last part, even though I was told growing up that just asking questions was a form of rebellion, that just was that once you start asking the question, you've already lost. The devil's already got you. He's in your brain. And I'm like, I don't think that's necessarily. I mean, it's a convenient way. It's a convenient way to house or cache the inquisitive mind or the probing questions, the things that won't just sit because tradition said so. And for me, in my world, everything that's in my world has to have a purpose. It has to have a meaning. God didn't put me there, or the universe, or whatever power you believe is moving us with the unseen hand. It did not put me in any situation just to be there. There's some aspect of it from which I'm supposed to mine and understanding, not about the external world, but about myself, that allows me to grow in the being that I want to become. That's my worldview in a nutshell.
And now that's really probably where I'm at most days. And you simplified it so in a way that I probably never could, because I'm a very wordy person. Very wordy person. You too. So, but this journey, again, since we diving into spirituality a little bit in the beginning here, as I said in the previous podcast, and I said on this one, from small town, 3 stoplights at the time. We do have 4 stoplights there now. We grew. Since 1980, we grew. And a small town church, challenging and questioning led to me at a point to being one of those witnesses, but preaching their philosophies and their ministry. And that gave me the speaking. I take away the good. I got the speaking skills. I got organizational skills. I got the structure. But when I got to my mid-40s and started questioning, I discovered the same thing I discovered as a teenager in the church. You fit into the system, but you don't question the system. Correct. If one person believes, you got to believe what everybody believes. You can't have your own individual concept, though you may do your research and your study and see, oh, historically, this was not so. This was given to us. This was force-fed by me, my grandma, papa, daddy, everybody. And basically, what I said on my Facebook post, it's a form of mental, spiritual slavery in theology, because what was given by slave masters. People don't want to hear that talk. But
that's historical.
It was given by slave masters until some black folk had enough and formed their own black churches. But that's a whole nother topic. But going back to where I'm at now, as I said to y'all camera, everyone who's claiming to be a Christian deconstructionist now have a different version of it. For me, is I believe in God firmly. I believe he speaks through the voices of my ancestors. Some people get offended when I pray that way. But I'm asking, what's the difference in that having Mother's Day? Because Mother's Day and Father's Day, you're still reaching out to your ancestors. That's and then true. In the book of Hebrews, it said a great cloud of witnesses. Your witnesses aren't living people. They're dead. They're ancestors. It named them. It named Abraham. It named Abraham. They're cloud. Yeah, and they named the ones that they had back then. They call them by name. Abraham, they went down the list of these ancestors. But we don't want to hear that kind of talk in church, but your same Bible justifies it. Ancestors is part of our culture. Has been, always will be. How you approach otherwise is up to you, but getting into it, there's a biblical foundation for that. Because that great cloud, they're not walking around shaking your hand no more. They go, as we said, they going on to great glory. They going on beyond. But anyway, I'm glad you led in like this, because I could say some stuff I've been itching to say. I ain't say it. Like, I'm not wrong going to my ancestors, because they did it back then. I don't know who actually wrote the book of Hebrews, but I know he testified that the great cloud is always going to be with you. I firmly believe that there are times my mom is here in my presence. I can't identify that spirit and energy. So yeah, but going back into that thing of theology, going back into that thing of spiritual practices, going back into what you mentioned, the challenge often, I think, has been that if you question, you are heathen.
Yes.
And you don't believe in God, and you leave in the church. I don't care if I ever set foot in another church again. However, I will consider setting foot in churches that minister and preach what we used to have, liberation theology, Marcus Garvey type stuff. Because as a black man, we're being challenged right now, especially in Texas and Louisiana and places like that. These individuals had it right, and they were taken out because they had it right. There's a positive side of scripture of liberation theology. But that's another topic. We could probably bring back and talk about that another time. But getting back to living intentionally, though, and being creative and being in the business world, and having such an amazing website that I looked at so much information. This is a dive into what you bring. Then I had my tangent.
All right, so let's see. Where do I start? All right, so I think the first place I want to start is I love the Madame Curie quote that life is not to be feared, life is to be understood. And I think it's Madame Curie, and I couldn't agree more. I think the first problem that I think, all right, so deconstructing, I think is perfectly fine. I do not think that we are meant to all believe the same thing explicitly. I believe that there are philosophies that we can all align under, but when it comes to belief, it's very difficult for us all to believe the same thing without a lot more discussion and discourse that's happening in our space between our different faiths and belief systems. And I'll give you a very, very simple example. I'm holding up, I don't know, I hold up this cup. All right, so I'm holding up a cup for people who are listening. It's in the view of the camera. People who are watching this video right now have a perception of this cup, and their perception of the cup is true, but their perception of the cup is not the truth. There's a truth when it's seen from the right angle. There's another truth when it's seen from the left angle. There's a different truth when it's seen from above and when it's seen from below. Not to mention that I, from my side, which is opposite the camera, have a completely different view of this. It's darker in certain areas.
Let me bring my cup out.
you know what I'm saying? Because everybody, we're all looking at life, but you got to understand we're looking at life from different angles. And what we're all seeing and learning, if we're being very honest about it, it's true. It's true, but it's not the whole truth. So when faiths come and faiths go, we know we got the whole truth over here. We all right over here. I got a problem with that right off the bat. That sounds like so much pride, right? To believe that somehow you guys have summed it all up and you've worked it all out and you've seen existence from every angle. I just don't see that's possible. Now, do I think that there's a way we can pull together? Yeah, there's a way we can share our understanding. If we're talking Bible, the Bible talks about the fear of God being the beginning of wisdom or whatever, and the knowledge of God being the beginning of light and understanding, right? So we're born into this world in darkness. We don't know nothing. That's what they tell us. And so we start learning. And as we learn, our environment becomes more perceptible to us, right? Our understanding expands. We're now able to recognize certain things. Think about the way a child's vision develops. Everything is blurred, dark at first, and then it's blurred, and then it begins to clear up and crystallize, right? And then as a child becomes familiar with the things that they've seen, they begin now to understand their world and start making rules and start making systems that they can follow, things that they can expect. But understand also that the child has only ever seen the stuff that was placed right in front of it. There's a whole nother world, right? So unless this child is going to pool up with other children and adults and other beings to get what they've seen, this person is only going to get a very small slice of life. Now, that slice of life is true for them, but that slice of life is only true all the way for them. And that's only if they're being really honest. So I can't make a religion or a faith and go tell somebody else, listen, you follow this. That's not fair. You know what I mean? I can't make somebody else live my truth. An example I'll give, and my quick example on why I believe deconstructionism is so important. I used to hear a story about this lady that she got married. Her husband was a great fisherman. He brought home this really big fish, okay? And he was doing well. They made a lot of money. His wife took a look at that fish. She chopped the first third off. She chopped the third third of the fish off and only cooked the middle third. And the husband, he's like, baby, you throwing away good fish right here. Like, what is happening? Like, what's going on? She said, baby, no, you don't know about this. This is cooking. It's Southern cooking. My mama taught me this. My grandmama did this. You know what I mean? So he like, baby, it don't make no sense to me. You got to go find out why we doing this. So she goes to her mama and she says, Mom, my husband don't understand good cooking. I done showed him how we make this fish. He is fussing about it. Why we do this? So I can explain to him and he can understand. She said, baby, I don't really know. It's just the way Big Mama always did it. Well, fortunately, Big Mama was still alive. So they went to go talk to Big Mama, right? And they said, Big Mama, why? When we make fish, do we always cut off and only use that middle 1/3? She said, well, baby, when you was coming up, our pans wasn't but this big. So we couldn't fit the whole thing in the pot. So you get where I'm going with this, right? The moral of the story is we inherit traditions that may have served us at one time. But as we grow and we expand and our possibilities expand and our awareness expands, it becomes time for us to re-examine those traditions and ask if they really serve us. Because otherwise, we're probably missing out on 2/3 of life.
Wow. Fish in the pan.
Fish in the pan. So deconstructionism, I'm all for it. Mine happened in the year 2000 because my church told me I was born and I graduated in 1996. That'll age me a little bit. Y'all understand that. I graduated high school in 1996. So I'm 4 years from the end of the world because everybody just knew that 1999, even Prince was like, so 2000 party.
A whole song, yeah.
Right, whole song. So the society and the culture was geared toward this. We had the 2K bug. Remember that?
All that stuff. Yeah.
All that was happening.
My youngest son was born in 1991, so
it was a lot happening, right?
A lot happening.
When the world didn't end at the stroke of midnight, when it turned from 1999 to 2000, I had some thinking to do. Because now I had to figure out, what do I do if everything I was taught doesn't really work out the way I was taught that it works? And how do I go on living these next years? And for a number of reasons, there was a great concern of mine because my father had died when I was young. And so I started saying, well, what do I really believe? Do I believe there's a God? And I broke it all the way down to there. So there's got to be a God because there's stuff bigger than us that we can't control. Whether you call it luck, karma, the universe, whatever, you got to yield and bow to something, right?
Right. You got to yield and bow to something,
You're going to yield and bow to something. So we're going to call
something
it
greater than us. Yeah.
Something greater than us, correct. Something unseen that we cannot control that's greater than us. So I'm like, well, I'm going to call it God. People can call it whatever they want to call it. Yeah. But that thing then requires me to conduct myself in a certain way once I learn its principles, once I learn how it works, how it shows up in my world, which goes back to this idea of learning. So big on deconstruction, big on building it up. I built my faith from the ground up, from God I decided to be a Christian. I decided to be a Christian over Islam, over a few other things, because I liked the Christian package better. Here's why I liked it. I'm not proselytizing. I'm just telling you my thought process.
I got you. Yeah.
I'm intentional about my life. I'm intentional about the decisions that I make. I'm intentional because for me, I want to always remember that I am an eternal being having a temporal experience. Okay.
That's the core, I think, where people mess up when it comes to people saying they're deconstructionist Christians. I don't ascribe to attending Christian facilities all the time. I have no problem to show thing your lane. However, when I look at Christianity, I look at it from the lens of not Jesus as a follower of it, but the core of what he represented, which is being misrepresented, I think, in this day and time. Because Jesus and Gandhi and a bunch of others all were on the same page. They just packaged it differently.
That's that cup from different angles. You know what I'm saying? You got Jesus and Gandhi, and even though I don't really like Gandhi, he's a bit of a jerk, I hear.
He was a jerk, but he has some good quotes, though. He
made some good quotes. He had some good insight, right? You can, and I think that's the thing that we miss. And I want to jump in on that really quick. There's so much hypocrisy in the faith space right now. And the reason there's so much hypocrisy in the faith space that people won't even question the things that they are already questioning internally, they won't question them out loud because we have to present this fully formed, perfect image to people, right? And we aren't allowed to embrace each other as being developing beings.
Or like fish in the pan.
Yeah, the fish in the pan. We make the pastor the shepherd. No, he's another sheep. He might be a sheep who's been around longer than you, but he's another sheep. You only got one shepherd. So other sheep are going to mess up. They're sheep. They're still learning. If they were perfect, they'd be gone. So I think we put people in those boxes and we don't allow them to be the multifaceted beings that God created them to be. Because, and I think in doing that, we crush our understanding, we crush our ability to really synthesize what's being shown us in our world. So that was my thing about religion and deconstruction, and why I think there's a pushback against questioning. I think because people don't have the answers. Go ahead. I think I digressed a little bit.
No, you good, because for me, the other side of it, I still say it. People fear the question because it challenges their religion. And it challenges them to do research, and it challenges them to think. But my thought on that is this: if we are sitting in a classroom for whatever level of education, they're going to challenge you to think in a certain way to get to a certain point of reasoning on an assignment. If you can do it for a secular purpose, why can't you do it for a spiritual purpose?
Correct. I agree wholeheartedly. And then it's interesting that the Bible itself tells the Bible believer to work out their own salvation in trembling and in fear. Now, let me ask you this. If I'm following an organized religion and we're all doing the same thing at the same time, okay, if you visualize that, does that seem like a straight path or a wide path?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like they're narrowing you in a box, basically. And for the trembling and fear part of that scripture, I can't say you had the same experience, but that's part of my experience. The focus is on the trembling, the fear, not how you're not that it should drive you to get understanding.
Yes.
If it drives you to get understanding, it's different. Yeah, because who's not afraid of learning something new? First thing you put your freaking feet on a bicycle and they push you down the road and you realize about holding you, that was your fear, your freaking trembling. So, because you realizing I ain't no training wheels no more. I'm out here by myself. Now kids got a little safer. They put helmets on them. They were back our day because you bump your head and you knew better than to fall over again. But anyway, that's that fear. I guess I'm glad you brought it up because I get a chance to go places I didn't want to go normally. It goes through that part of the fear and the trembling, focusing on it from the aspect, oh, God is so great, and or the universe is so powerful. There's so many things beyond my control, instead of learning what you can control, learning how you can move.
Yes.
And that's kind of what some of my conversation around the house is, because I still fall back in that space of I got to be in a safe lane instead of the other lane. And the other lane pushed me over here with you this morning because I looked up yesterday morning. I got an alert. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I got another guest tomorrow. I have two shows tomorrow. That's and then like, it's cool though, because I looked at, I'm like, I gotta do this one. I thought I found you outside of Match, because lately people have been discovering the show outside of Match as a booking site. Yeah. Oh, this could be easy. Then I looked at, oh no, it ain't gonna be easy because he's deep.
I would try. We gonna keep it easy as possible.
Yeah, but you're taking things that make people. We're talking about things that I've been itching to talk about, and we're talking about also life in general. Because I don't want anyone to believe that we're just trying to say a church and Christianity. Because what you said before and what I'm bringing in now, it crosses every spectrum. I was watching a short video reel thing on TikTok. There's quite a few of those I've been saving lately because it's got after vetting and make sure they're straight, not some fake craziness. Where the common thread of Ali and Malcolm, they weren't a threat as long as they were teaching individual theologies. They became a threat when they started teaching liberation theology, financial prosperity for people. When they started sharing the same message, they became a threat to the church. They became a threat to Islam, because you're no longer manipulating and controlling anyone. You're now using the power of your voice and your faith to take people out of the norm and say, hey, I got to question this because the Quran said that, but that ain't what it really meant, because I've been over there in the Middle East and I've seen it. Or a king, southern down south, but this ain't working, because this is slave mentality. We need to be prosperous in doing things, leading boycotts, and using Bible and that liberation theology. Because I think I can say everybody. I get it. I may even go to my soapbox with you this morning. Thank God.
That's okay.
Thank God. Thank my ancestors. Thank all. As Les Brown would say, I thank all of you. That my challenge, and you may want to address it. I mean, you already addressed it some. Is that when it comes to church life and Christianity, I call it Americanized Christianity, because I've been with the evangelicals for like 3 or 4 years before I realized they were the MAGA folks. But anyway, all said and done, I had a clue. I'm gonna go back to my point. I had a clue the last time I attended a service with the church I was in. It was during the election season of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and we had private meetings for our team building. We had like 1,000 volunteers in that church, and so once a month, I think it was, we would come together, private service, all that upbuilding, all that cool stuff. But the pastor took it upon himself to make the statement. First of all, I'm looking around the room, seeing like maybe 10 black folks in the room. Number one, and he took it upon himself to say we have the choice of electing a baby killer or a narcissist. Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And he held up the Bible. He held up this book that was written about explaining how America was founded on Christian principles. It's like, this is what we're facing. And I never went back.
Right.
Because not going back, I discovered they been holding whole meetings, all Republican candidates and no Democratic candidates challenged nothing that was said at the church. And when he said that, I was like, I got to get out of here because it was. But he said, I'm not preaching politics.
No,
but you have a choice. This fight pastor. And it hit me. It hit me that this ain't about Jesus no more. This is about control.
I think the individualism of faith has been washed out of the discourse.
Thank you for saying that. Let's go there. Discourse in politics too.
You know what I mean? Yes, the individuality is being washed out of our discourses all the way around. Right? We're told to align with these labels, with these groups, with these T-shirts, with these hats that are supposed to incorporate what our beliefs are. And so that's the reason I brought up the scripture about working out your own salvation, because you're right. That's the part I wanted to key in on. The trembling and fear just tells you it's important. But the point is, you got to work this thing out for yourself. So as I was deconstructing, and once I realized there was a God, because somebody had to give me life and orchestrate this network. It
didn't just happen. I mean, even if it came about by the Big Bang Theory, and someone would say someone created something to create something. It didn't just happen.
Something happened. Right. Nothing just happened. Something always precedes the happening.
Some power behind it. Yeah. Anyway.
So then I'm like, well, if God or whatever the power is gives me life, then what's the purpose of that life? And I think that's the question I think most human beings, when they really want to get deep, that's the one we all get stuck at. We all get stuck at what the purpose is, because society and media tells us that the purpose is to accumulate as much as we can and store as much as we can for the people who share our bloodline or our perspective. Right.
Also, and really legacy. Create a legacy. Yeah.
Create a legacy. To create a legacy that reflects your worldview, right, and your principles, not something else. So that's where most people land on the purpose of life. Now, my issue with that is this: I take the most influential person in history that I can think of, and maybe because I grew up in church, and that's Jesus. Okay. Jesus, we are 2,000 years after they say this man died. People are still talking about him. They're still doing movies. They're still writing books. Okay, that is amazing. His name is still in the mouths of the people. That is amazing. That's legacy. But then if you look at it, they can't even agree on what his legacy was. People can't agree if he had a girlfriend. They can't agree if he was real. They can't agree on what he really meant when he said what he said, if the miracles really happened the way they happened. So you have all of this legacy. You have the pinnacle of legacy, if you will, that a human being can aspire to, right? Because some say the Bible is the best-selling book of all time. That makes him a best-selling author too. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. My point is, you got this pinnacle. And even in the pinnacle, even in the utmost success that we can achieve in building a long-lasting legacy for ourselves and for those who share our paradigm, we see it's flawed. You're not remembered the way that you are. The story does change, and there's nothing certain. So you're not forever memorialized in the memories of those that knew you or that tell others about you. So then where does true legacy live? True legacy has to live within the self.
Okay.
Because that's all you get to take with you.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to know that you know for you that you have crafted a being and a trail through this time and space that did what you wanted to do if nobody else noticed.
And that's where I'm gonna go back. I'm tying some things have been itching. I've been itching to say a lot, but I'm like, I need to get here and do a bunch of individual podcasts again, solo acts. But anyway, as I've did a deep dive, because a lot of things I know I share, people won't touch on, especially on Facebook. And this is one that I haven't shared yet. And it's been staring me in the face, you in the face, and everyone else in the face, whether we look at the Bible itself as a whole. But the question I now pivot to is this. Like, Jesus Christ, I don't doubt it. They've researched it. He was a historical figure. There's a lot of different stories behind it, however you want to go with it. However, when you get to the books that they want to say, tell his story, no one's asking how these books written in Arabic end up with English names and European names. How did Paul, no one's curious at how did Paul's writings come before Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Because Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John came 40-some years after Paul wrote the books he wrote. And these are undisputable facts. But see, when people don't want, they don't, like a lady I talked to a few days ago, she's like, I gotta look that up. I'm like, this is historical evidence that we can point to, and whether you, and it's not because back then stories were orally passed on for the poorest of the people. But it's like, to me, it really don't matter if they give English names or not. The point is that the stories were preserved to preserve the legacy of a man named Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. The story of him being a savior dying for our sins, that was later created by Catholicism, but you can also research. But if you go back and look at the core reason, which I have firmly believe in, and it's been documented by other scholars, he was a political threat to Rome. Yes. And to go a little bit deeper, there had always been messiahs. David was one, King Saul was one, the list that goes on. The word means leader and king and ruler. He didn't do what those other cats did. They came in swinging a sword and killing people, and Jesus came in, I'm going to love you, you protect people, you look out for the poor. He came with all this other good stuff. And the Roman government couldn't tolerate nobody like that. And if you look at even our modern times, which I bring it up to modern times, every time there's been a liberation pastor or a liberation type leader, especially in the Black community, their lives have always been cut short. Anyone's a threat. Anyone's a threat from a religious perspective, especially a religious perspective, because you can kill a politician, but you can't kill a belief.
Can't kill a belief. Cannot kill an idea.
And this, Jesus has been talked about, as you said, we still talk about him to this day. He never wrote anything. He never put anything down in writing his own name, but he is still here. And them executing him made him even stronger than he was when he died. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm going to say on this soapbox for those who say I ain't a believer. I believe in historical Jesus, not the modern day Americanized, Christianized version, with a little lamb and a white face of a gangster, Italian gangster. I believe in the woolly hair when the Bible talked about, who came with an attitude and a sledgehammer in the temple.
Okay? Yeah, red fiery eyes.
Say I don't believe that is, because some about say it, because they heard me talk a lot about the construction stuff. Because anyway, I got my soapbox with you today. So
no, you're good. I want to push back a little bit on something, because I know you feel like, I know you said that it was the Romans that had a problem with Jesus's approach, but I think the Romans were happy with Jesus's approach, or at least they were content. He was better than the Maccabees, who wanted a rebellion. Judas was like, let's take up arms. And so Jesus being this pacifist is a lot, I think, allegorical, if you will, to Martin Luther King and how.
Let me just squeeze it in. when I said it because he was a different kind of threat because people were following his pacifism.
I'm just saying. I think his place as a threat in the way people thought is what made the Jews push him up to the Romans to be killed. I think the Romans might have come around to him eventually, but his threat to the thinking. I agree with you. I just say I don't want to let the Pharisees and the Sadducees off the hook. I don't want to let the religious institutions off the hook, because I think if anybody's going to push back to our conversation today, guess who it's going to be? The
religious people.
Yeah. So if anybody's going to serve us up to the government and look, these people have stirred up trouble or whatever, blah, 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 guess who it's probably going to be? The religious institutions.
It's going to be those. It's going to be and I mean for this to go this way, but that goes back to that fear part. And that fear part ties in even with going to another version of this show, going to the business side, entrepreneur side. I'm now, after the show's going to be, I think, 8 years old this year, 2018, whenever 2018 was. But it's only been the last 2 years it's gained the momentum it's gained. Mainly because I've been lazy. I've been lazy with it. But now that's far in it. People are looking all around now, and I'm seeing, workshop on podcast, masterclass on podcast. I'm like, oh, great. Y'all spend all this money, you do all this stuff. That's awesome. But what these individuals are doing are taking your money for what they've already done. Mm-hmm. Sure, if I need it, like my wife suggested, I mentioned this morning, I need to teach a class on podcasting. But I'm gonna teach a basic class. Like I tell everybody else I've met, how'd you do it? I said, go get a cell phone, get a decent headset, find you a service provider, do your podcast. $50. Master, you want to be master at it, do something on YouTube, do something on Facebook. If you want to spend a little bit more money, get a website. Because you can pay all these people for this fancy equipment. We're in an age where smartphones can do a lot. It's like I'm going to take this thing to the streets and start streaming from the streets soon, which I should have been doing a long time ago. But now I say this to say that when it comes to branding and other things you do, I looked at your website. It's an awesome site, the things you've done, but it's very simplistic. It's easy to process. So what are some of your suggestions? What might you suggest for those who are, and I real estate, and I consider my wife's lane the faith-based lane. But in a way, that's her lane. But it's also my lane in church. What do you suggest at that level for those that want to take their passion to another level? Whether it's faith or just movement.
Yeah, I think I've come upon this phrase now that I'm really pushing. Yeah. And it's probably not new. It's just, to me, it encapsulates where I think we all have to start. I think the shift becomes, whether it's entrepreneur or faith, I think the shift becomes on improving versus proving. Okay. For instance, as an entrepreneur, I've had several businesses that I've started. I had a security company in Florida. My brother and I did armed security for events and properties. I've had I got Goodwoods, the smoking accessory. Yeah. I've got books I've written, the podcast. It's all these things that I built. What I have found out over time is the biggest trap we run in when we start to create things is we want to create things to prove to other people that they are real, that they are valuable, that they have worth, that they're substantial, right? Going back to your podcast analogy, right? Person wants to start a podcast, first thing they're like is, I need cameras in the studio. I need a name for my podcast. Let me get a web page for my podcast. Let me do this, right? When the first thing you got to do before you try to prove to everybody that you have a real podcast is you got to start podcasting, right? You got to actually start doing the thing. And in doing the thing, you learn what you need to do the thing better. That becomes improvement. That becomes you building a system within yourself, recognizing the gaps, constantly reflecting, going, okay, I need to shore this up. I need to shore that up. I need this now. But I don't need it to prove to other people that this is where I am. I need it because I'm improving my system, and this is the point that I've gotten to. It's a whole different mindset. And it gets us to a lot of the same things, but it gets us there in different timing. So I'm going to lean on my experience as an educator, as a math teacher. And I'm going to say, if you remember about addition and subtraction, one is commutative, the other is not. One, the order can change and it won't change anything. Multiplication and addition, you take the same two numbers, switch to who's first and who's last, you'll get the same answer every time. But subtraction and division are not like that. So when we choose to remove things from our lives, has a larger impact on the outcome than when we add them. So what I'm saying here is this. Sometimes we got to remove stuff because we added it too soon, right? For instance, my security job, man, we got our first check. What we go do? We bought some office furniture, chairs. We got some big black chair and stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need that to do security. You know what I mean? You need better uniforms. You need better equipment. You need whatever. But we were trying to project, to prove to everybody who was encountering us that we were at this level, instead of saying, what do I need to perform at the level that I want to perform on, to perform at the level that I'm on right now? And that's what takes me to the higher level. So I said all that to come around and say, because we're talking about this intentional living thing and where do you start? I think you first have to start, and this is going to sound really crazy, probably really whatever. We first have to start with understanding that we are building for a legacy outside of time. We are building for a legacy that will keep us company and content in a space where there is no external input. Ain't nobody there to tell us we did a good job, or that they love us, or that it's okay, or that what we did mattered, or any of that. And we are just in a place in our being with our thoughts, right? Now, I'm gonna just touch on the theological for a second to tell you where I'm coming from with this. A lot of times, if you read the Bible carefully, you'll find that Jesus is like, don't look up there for heaven. If people tell you the heaven is over there, they lying. Kingdom of heaven is inside of you. The Bible says in another place that kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. It's the smallest thing, and then it grows to house all this, to become this big old plant to house all these other life forms, right? And in other places, it tells us that Ecclesiastes that time is circular, right? That what is has already been, and what is to come is, and so it's a circular nature.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
It's a cycle. And I said all that to say, when you understand that, then you stop building to prove anything to the world. You build what gives you peace. You look inside yourself and say, you know what? It bothers me that this thing doesn't exist. It bothers me that this is like this in the world. It bothers me. And because it bothers me, to soothe my soul from what my being knows needs to be in this creation, I'm going to start creating. And then whatever I need to create that, I'm going to grab it and piece it together in time with what I need. Not to prove to anybody what I'm making. They're going to see it when it's done. I remember and I kind of digress, but it works in interpersonal relationships too. The reason a lot of guys don't tell their wives when we mess up, because we don't want the cloud over our head the whole time. We don't want her to always remember what we did 5 years later. You did that girl, call that girl. Like, I don't even know what that girl is no more. So we don't really share a lot of what's going on with us, because we don't want to have the burden of proving to this person that we are still who we say we are. Now, I'm not saying that means we should be lying, fellas. Ladies, that's not what I said. But what I am saying is, if the goal becomes improving, if I was a liar, if I was lazy, if I was a cheater, if I was whatever, I will exhaust my life energy trying to prove to somebody that I'm different, because they might not be looking when I'm putting on my performance, right? Or my performance might be interpreted a different way than what I was trying to deliver. I can't tell you how many times I tried to impress my wife, and what I said was not impressive, okay? It was not. She was not moved. She was like insulted. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm trying to get brownie points. How does this happen? But that was me trying to prove instead of improving. If I show up intentionally for what I know I need to do to be the person that I need to be, I don't have to worry about showing it to her. She gonna see it. Why? Because it's all that there is. Now take that and apply that back to when we're building our legacies, when we're building our empires, when we're building our businesses, right? We are so quick to try to get everybody to see what a great success we are and how well we're doing. When the truth is, if we just keep building the thing that we were told to build, whether it's Noah and the ark, or whether it's Moses and the ark, if we're building the thing that we feel like we were told to build, the need that we saw in the world, everybody will see it in its time. And if they never see it, if we die in the building of it, you know who really got the benefit of it? Us. Because we knew what we were building, and we built it to the extent that we could in the time that we had. That's how you move on to the next place in peace. Everything else is temporary. People's memories, the buildings, everything, all other structures are temporary and will fall and crumble. The only thing that we have is what's inside of us. That's what we build. That's what we take forward, and that's where we build from.
This really plays into something. I'm paraphrasing what Les Brown once said. I mean, he probably repeated what somebody else said it too, because that is really original to a certain degree. Is that you don't want to go to your grave with a dream inside.
Yes, right.
I'm sitting now in this office now. It's like I beat myself up personally. So I made some investments in certain things around here to get out here in these streets around, mainly Greensboro. It's the largest place where I'm more well known. And I'm like, I let North Carolina A&T get out of session. I let UNCG get out of session. The audience for the open mic stuff in the streets, I'm taking it from the normal format. I got stuff set up. Mine's the tent, cover up thing, to go into the streets, do a different format. Then I let school go a whole semester into this part of the summer. I'm like, now I gotta wait till it comes back in session. And then I gotta wait because majority of the ones that were supporting me are gone. However, on the other side of the coin, I have been taking advantage of every opportunity for the students that have been left behind. I'm like, keep an eye out for it. Because when school gets back in session, so you have to go up to this club or this coffee shop, look around. I'm in the corner where the real man sat on ribs at doing an open mic. I'm in the corner where the watermelon man sat on watermelons at. We doing a pop-up open mic. And I'll be out there then hopefully and get the money from that to generate my t-shirts and stuff like that. And they were like, I've heard of that before. I said, because it ain't been done in Greensboro before. I know it ain't because I've done this. I did this stuff years ago. There are plenty of events happening, but there's no one hitting the block. When you see the lemonade truck pulled up selling lemonade, and like, yo, what y'all doing over there? We having an open mic on the corner. You doing what? Because and you licensed with that. So I'm already licensed. I got a DBA from the city, which covers all 100 counties in North Carolina. So I can go anywhere.
Nice.
$40-some. I'm putting it out there now, even on this show, so the word to get spread even more. Because, like you said, you gotta step into that thing.
Yes.
And maybe I'm sharing. You can probably watch this shit.
You lean forward.
I ain't leaning forward. Anyway, some of the stuff I haven't really maybe talked about around the house, like I said. But I've invested in this stuff to the point of getting a great big freaking giant pop-up sign with everything on it.
Yeah.
So when I go to the street corner, they can't miss it. Because when QR codes started getting popular, I was listening to somebody, because I'm always trying to listen to somebody, online, offline, whatever. And I'm like, QR codes. So I started using them to the point where all my signage, when it came, first signage came, I took my phone and I went like, okay, let me see how well this works. So from 10 feet away, you get all my stuff for free, whether you want it or not, because the average person, I'm going back to bringing it up again and pivot to kind of give an example of what you're talking about, I think. They walk like this. And what they fail to realize that the system has is rigged. Your camera is always on unless you're turning it off. So you get my information whether you want it or not, and that QR code. And somebody's like, that ain't right. I'm like, I'm telling you now, the system's rigged. Your phone's recording information. It's not a camera. It don't have to be. Smartphones pick up every QR code that's comes their way. Yeah, I'm giving a tidbit out. Y'all want some business points out there that young people coming up catching it. Yeah.
You know what? That's what it's what we need, though. We need more people who have built intentionally
marketing. Cheat marketing, as I call it.
Cheat marketing.
Because the average person walks like this. So when they pass by 10 feet within 10 feet, you done got my QR code.
That's not bad.
Anyway, enough of that self-promote. I'm a shameless promoter in this instant. But going back there, usually so you can wrap this up because I think we're right at about an hour.
Oh yeah, we're close.
I got to create another.
Right back. That was quick. All right, so let me wrap it up. What I want, life is not to be feared. Life is to be understood. Life is to be understood as an internal practice. Life is to be. I was voted most likely to succeed from my high school. My God, was that a burden for me for many, many years because I didn't know how I needed to show up in order to be worthy of that superlative. I didn't know what I needed to come back with at the reunion so everybody could go, oh yeah, he made good. Yeah. So I'm looking at my life like, ooh, this ain't good enough. Nah, this ain't good enough. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at the people that were in the top 5 of the classroom, and I'm like, ooh, what is he? He's a scientist now? Oh no, I'm a teacher. This is not good. And then I married a woman who made more money than me, which also was like, oh my God, this is so bad. But all of that was really
about too many things happening in real life right now.
Yeah. You're right.
Anyway, go ahead. Here's your story.
So all of that, what it taught me was, though, again, that I was in an approving versus improving mindset. And I was never going to be happy because I was always trying to build something.
Let me pause you 1 second. That's my number one poison that I'm always being reminded of. I operate in a proving mindset too much. I'm gonna say it out loud so you can continue.
Yeah, we all do. I think we're taught that, though. We're taught that. Think about all of our movies where someone's a hero. Okay, you never get a hero without somebody else coming to them going, "You're the one. You just have to prove it." Right? Somebody got to come tap you on the shoulder to tell you that you have done something or moved in such a way that now identifies you as the one. And then you start your process of being the super person you're supposed to be. Why can't you tap yourself? That's just a question. I'm going to put that right there and put that right there. You know what I'm saying? We can circle back to another day. But why can't we tap ourselves? Because that's what I think we're supposed to do. When I say life is meant to be understood, life is meant to be experienced and processed to tell us what we can understand about ourselves from how we're interacting with the environment, not to fix the environment, but to fix ourselves within the environment so that when we transcend this environment, we are fully functional and whole beings. That's how you enter to an eternal space, and it can be heavenly. It can be idealistic because internally you don't have the conflict. You've already made peace with the things that were conflicting within you. Because if you go into a timeless space where there's no external input and there's just you and yourself and your psyche and your consciousness world you built within you, if that place has conflict, guess what you're sitting in for timelessness? You're sitting in conflict. So I think the point of life, and I wrote a book actually called The Point of Life. I think the point of life is for us to, right now, we are at best 4 or 5 dimensional beings. Okay. We recognize length. That's one. We recognize width. We recognize height, right? That's how we have 3-dimensional things. Mm-hmm. Most of us don't even really talk about the 4th, 5th dimension, which would be space and time. Or people lump them together and call them space time, which I'm fine with that too, because you kind of can't have one without having the other. Anyway, but once you've done that, once I start from a point and I've gone out in all directions, 3D, right? Or even 4D, length, width, height, and the space and time from one point to another within them, right? To travel, the difference. Where else is there left to go? I talked to a quantum physicist, and he's like, they think there's like 15 to 20 dimensions. I'm like, well, we only have 5 and we're out of space. But we're not, because the next place you go is internally, right? And when you go internally, you find there's a whole vast universe inside of ourselves that needs to be understood, and that we have more control over and a greater ability to understand than anything external to ourselves. So when I'm dealing with the world's telling me about it, but it's telling me about it so I can understand how I move in it and why I move in it the way I do. Because that's the only thing I can fix. So that's my growth of my person. That's my growth of my consciousness. That's my faith at work, is me looking at life, looking at how I shoot out my light, my experience into life. It interacts with the environment. It bounces back to me. I get a feeling a certain type of way. Now, I can take that feeling and I can say that it's supposed to teach me about the world, or I can take that feeling and say, what does it teach me about myself? And what it taught me about myself, is that something that I want or is that something I don't want? And once I start building on that level, I don't have to worry about if my wife thinks I'm a great man, or my kids think I'm a great man, or if my boss thinks I'm a great worker, because I know that in every instance that I get a shot, I'm asking those questions myself.
On that note, I'm just gonna leave it all alone, because everything he just said, y'all, you just take it and apply it back to yourself. Take that deep journey. Take that deep dive. Part of my morning conversation around the house was pushed to take that deep dive, to start to the point. But thankfully, I didn't walk away and do the man thing and just say, "Oh, I'm done with this today." Take that deep dive, because when stuff is presented to me, largely by my wife, that she don't know I've already done, it hits differently because I've already done it, and I'm feeling like she's cutting at me because what I've already done has opened up the door for me to do better. I just have chosen not to do better. Take that internal space and move it out. Going back again to the podcast, which is going to be on my mind for the rest of this week, because I got like another 2 people this week. My most successful time, and what I mean by success is getting more listeners than subscribers. Now I'm working towards the subscribers versus listeners. I literally did an episode a week for a month and built off of that. It may seem small, but that's 4 completed episodes in a month. And I pivoted off of those episodes. That's before the days of it going live. That's when on the audio. And it was a challenge because I was working full day, part-time job. I had to get viable content in. And I wasn't bringing people on, so it was all me. The people were sporadic. Guests were sporadic. But going back to what you just said, I'm not going to try to say it the way you said it. Y'all replay what he said. It was a lot, but it goes getting back to the core of who you are, exploring those dimensions. This show, in some way, offended some of you because it had a lot to deal with spirituality. I say spirituality more than faith. Then so be it. It wasn't a show for you. However, within this context of all of that, there were nuggets to take away for everyone. Appreciate my man Justin coming up here today. He's gonna be another person I want to bring back.
I'm all for it.
Bring back at a later time if possible. I'll adjust my schedule to get you back in later in the evening, because there's a lot of my Facebook folks need to hear a lot of this content, and this probably just be the same thing, just episode number 2 of what we did today. Thank you for joining me. I'm taking on camera for a moment. Now I have more people. Welcome, new viewer. We're gonna jump off the camera in a second. We will be back though. Catch the show on replay. And take on camera for a few moments. Don't go anywhere, please, because my last guest, I took off camera and she went completely off camera.
I got you.
All right. Let me changing the size of the screen, and which I'm still working at doing. And okay, that's that. I got you. And I'm gonna take you off in a second until we get there. There we go. Thank you for getting to another episode of Life is About More Than Living, a podcast. We'll definitely have Justin Thompson back on again. Go a little bit deeper than we went today on the entrepreneurial side, the business side of things, and continue supporting the show by becoming a subscriber to this podcast on YouTube or Spotify. or wherever you listen to podcasts at. Join the subscriber list, y'all. We're in this together. Stories are meant to be told. Great stories, great information. And I'll see you later on the day with another guest. Totally different topic. And let's have a great conversation around 5 p.m. Thank you for joining Life is About More Than Living Your podcast.